Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we're taking a look at the 80s horror documentary, In Search of Darkness. In Search of Darkness, a journey into iconic 80s horror. So I got this back in 2019. I couldn't resist a documentary covering the decade of horror that I grew up watching. So in purchasing this documentary, I was able to actually get my name added in the credits with a bunch of other supporters. We helped to get this documentary made. I got the Corey Taylor edition here, Corey Taylor Collector's Edition. In 2019, Slipknot released their We Are Not Your Kind album, so that's what Corey's wearing here on the cover. It's his We Are Not Your Kind mask, which I also have right here. Later on, there were two other sequels released, parts 2 and 3, which I also have here on the shelf. When I picked up the part 2 copy, I grabbed the Cinemassacre Collector's Edition, the Angry Video Game Nerd. Part 3 says The Final Journey into 80s Horror. What I liked most about these documentaries was that they mentioned a lot of horror that I had not seen. And for each part in the series, you could get a downloadable checklist of all the movies that were discussed in each documentary. Without any further ado, I'm going to show you all the movies that were profiled in this documentary. I'm going to show you all of them. I've completed part 1. Some of these movies were absolute fucking bangers, if you know what I mean.
It makes the pain go away. You promised you wouldn't let him get me.
While others were, unfortunately, some of these movies were sleepers.
Full Moon Eye. It's not just another teenage werewolf movie.
So anyway, without any further ado, here are the movies that were profiled in this brilliantly put together documentary. I've mentioned this in previous videos about my love for The Changeling. I honestly think The Changeling from 1980 is one of the best haunted house movies ever made. Any horror movie involving the ghost of a young child, that's grounds for absolute terror right there. The Evil Dead from 1981 one of the first horror movies I can remember seeing. There's two movies that stand out to me. That's A Nightmare on Elm Street from '84 and Evil Dead. Both of those were probably the first horror movies I have ever seen. Back in the early 80s when a VCR was first introduced to my household, along with it probably came those two movies, The Evil Dead and A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to go on record here by saying that The Thing is quite possibly one of the best horror movies ever made. John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. In my honest opinion, aside from his 1978 masterpiece, Halloween, which introduced us to the character Michael Myers, The Thing is John Carpenter's second best film of all time. Do you agree? That's just my humble opinion. To this day, I own multiple copies of The Thing, and it has quite possibly the best practical special effects ever to be shown on film. You gotta love it. Sleepaway Camp has probably one of the most memorable and shocking endings of any horror movie I've ever seen. Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. One of my favorites in the whole franchise. It has Ted White as Jason Voorhees. I still think his portrayal of Jason is one of the best in the entire franchise. That man's incarnation of Jason was pure badass. An unstoppable force. I'm actually surprised that Gremlins would be on this list. I like to consider Gremlins a Christmas movie, but I can see why it would be considered horror. I mean, a bunch of little monsters terrorizing your household and your community. Yeah, that could be pretty fucking terrifying. This is God. I quite enjoyed this. It's pretty much a start to the finish, non-stop action and comedy. The special effects, the practical special effects in this movie are just great. Yeah, I really enjoyed Return of the Living Dead. Of all the werewolf movies that were released in the 80s, I think personally my favorite is Silver Bullet. I mean, we're talking about a movie here that's based on a story by Stephen King. So not only is it one of my favorite werewolf movies, it's probably also one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations as well. Poltergeist 2. You know what I remember the most about this movie is that character of the Reverend, who I always thought, was the dude on the cover of Anthrax's Among the Living album. But having read Scott Ian's book, the guitar player in Anthrax, he did confirm that it is not that character on their album cover. It's just pure coincidence that he looks a lot like that character. The Toxic Avenger. Here is a movie that's so terrible that it's awesome. If you've not seen The Toxic Avenger, check it out. It's a low budget movie, just over the top. Definitely one of my favorite movies from the 80s. The Lost Boys. Quite possibly my favorite vampire movie of the 80s. It's a toss-up between that and Fright Night. But Lost Boys, yeah, that's an excellent movie. Definitely has stood the test of time. And talk about a movie with a surprise ending. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, probably the last Halloween movie that I enjoyed in the series, up until the release of Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween movie, which I thought was fucking awesome. But no, the movies after part 4, I really didn't care for. But part 4, I saw it back in '88, and at this point, you know, Michael Myers' mask is getting a little shittier, but I still enjoyed the movie, and I still remember it, and yeah, it's probably the last of the Halloween movies that I enjoyed up until most recently. Society, the last movie mentioned in the documentary. I think if it wasn't for movies like Society and From Beyond, there wouldn't be movies today such as The Substance. If you've not seen The Substance yet with Demi Moore, I highly recommend checking that one out. That movie borrows directly from Society, From Beyond. Amazing gore effects in The Substance. You better believe when The Substance is released on physical media, I'm going to own a copy here in my collection. So, Society definitely scores high on the list of best gore effects. Which is only right because the special effects were done courtesy of Screaming Mad George and his crew. And there you have it. All 82 movies that were discussed in part 1 of In Search of Darkness. Which of these movies have you seen? Which of these haven't you seen? Let me know down in the comment section of this video. I'm just one man who loves and appreciates good horror movies. I'm just one man with his own opinion. But do let me know down in the comment section, again, of this video. Let's have a discussion. Let me know what movies you thought were bangers and what movies you thought were absolute sleepers. In the end, I appreciate them all. And I appreciate you for joining me here today. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Have a safe and happy holiday. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe.